Most used luxury buyers start with the safe answer. They search for a Lexus ES, maybe a GS, maybe an older LS if they're feeling brave. And while they're doing that, they walk right past Lincoln, Buick, and Cadillac sedans that are quiet, comfortable, loaded with features, and cheap for reasons that are not always mechanical. This does not mean they are as safe to own as a Lexus. The real question is different. Do they deliver enough of that Lexus-like comfort experience to justify the discount? The Lincoln Continental is the emotional car in this story, because Lincoln did something that sounded right on paper and almost impossible in the real market. It brought back one of the most important names in American luxury, gave it a long body, a quiet cabin, available all-wheel drive, strong engines, serious seats, and a calm flagship personality. But the problem was timing. By the time the Continental returned, the luxury buyer had already moved on. Not from comfort, not from quietness, not from features. From sedans. That is why this car feels so forgotten today. It was not trying to be a sports sedan, and it was not trying to copy the Germans. The Continental was trying to be a proper American luxury car. Relaxed, substantial, smooth, and confident on the highway. And in the used market, that suddenly makes more sense than people admit. A good Continental can give you some of the things people like about a Lexus. A quiet ride, a comfortable cabin, a premium feel, and a car that makes daily driving feel easier. But the comparison has limits. Lexus still wins on resale value, reputation, and long-term confidence. The Continental wins on depreciation and presence. The version that makes the strongest case is the 3-liter twin-turbo with all-wheel drive, especially in a well-equipped Reserve or Black Label trim. That is where the car feels less like a nice used Lincoln and more like a rejected flagship. But do not buy one carelessly. This is still a modern luxury sedan with electronics, power seats, available adaptive suspension, all-wheel drive, panoramic roof options, and luxury features that need to work. A neglected Continental can become expensive fast. The right buyer is someone who wants comfort, size, quietness, and a little old-school American luxury flavor. The wrong buyer is someone who wants the safest possible used luxury purchase. That person should probably still buy the Lexus. But if the Continental is the emotional argument, the next car is the rational one, the American sedan that gets closest to the Lexus ES formula without asking for Lexus ES money. The Buick LaCrosse is not the dramatic car here, and that is exactly why it matters. The Lexus ES is not loved because it screams for attention. It works because it understands a certain kind of buyer, someone who wants quietness, comfort, easy controls, smooth power, and a car that does not turn every drive into an event. The LaCrosse plays a similar game, but with a much weaker badge and much weaker resale value. That is the opportunity. Buick did not lose this market because comfort stopped mattering. Comfort moved into crossovers. The same buyers who might have considered a large Buick sedan were suddenly buying Enclaves and other SUVs. So the LaCrosse became invisible not because it was useless, but because the shape of luxury changed around it. With the 3.6-liter V6, the LaCrosse can be a very sensible, used, premium sedan. It is calm, mature, roomy, and built more for highway comfort than for showing off. The Avenir trim adds some appeal, but the smartest buy is not always the fanciest one. It is the cleanest one with the best history. This is the closest car here to the Lexus ES philosophy. Not Lexus reliability, not Lexus resale, not Lexus confidence. The philosophy: quiet, comfortable, understated transportation for someone who does not need drama. But condition matters. You want to check transmission behavior, suspension noises, start-stop operation, infotainment, electronics, and maintenance records. A LaCrosse can look clean in photos and still hide expensive little problems. This is also where I would create real purchase intent for 2 simple things. Bring a basic OBD scanner when you inspect the car. You are not trying to become a mechanic in the parking lot, but stored codes can reveal problems before the dashboard tells the truth. And after buying it, keep a basic toolkit in the trunk. Nothing crazy. Just enough for small fixes, loose trim, battery terminals, simple fasteners, and the normal little moments that come with owning an aging premium sedan. That is not paranoia. That is how you keep a cheap luxury car from becoming an expensive surprise. The LaCrosse is for someone who wants calm comfort without paying Lexus money. The next car is not as calm because Lincoln gave it an engine that made the whole thing much stranger. Before we get to the next car, tell me something in the comments. What city are you watching from, and which old-school luxury sedan still makes sense where you live? Because a car that feels perfect in Phoenix might not be the same answer in Chicago, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, or rural Michigan. And if you like used car stories that go beyond the obvious choices, subscribe to the Auto Ally. This channel is for people who know the used market is more interesting than whatever is sitting at the front of the dealership lot. The Lincoln MKZ has a problem that follows it everywhere. People look at it and see a nicer Ford Fusion. And honestly, that criticism is not completely unfair. The connection is real. The proportions are familiar. The platform relationship is part of the story. If you need your luxury sedan to feel completely separate from an ordinary family car, the MKZ may never convince you. But used car value often hides inside cars with image problems. The MKZ did not fail because it had no merit. It failed because it was trapped between audiences. Luxury sedan buyers were chasing German badges, Lexus confidence, or SUVs. Lincoln buyers were moving toward crossovers, and performance shoppers were not exactly rushing to Lincoln dealerships. So the MKZ became easy to ignore. That is a mistake, depending on the version. The hybrid MKZ makes sense for the calm buyer. It is quiet, comfortable, efficient, and not trying to be exciting. That version fits someone who wants an easy daily driver with a nicer cabin and lower fuel costs. But the 3-liter twin-turbo all-wheel drive version is the twist. That car has more punch than most people expect from a Lincoln sedan. It does not turn the MKZ into a German sports sedan, and we should not pretend it does. The steering, weight, and character still lean toward comfort, but the power gives the car a sleeper personality that makes the used price much more interesting. The risk is that the exciting version is also the more complicated one. Turbos, all-wheel drive, adaptive suspension, cooling, tires, brakes, and previous owner behavior all matter. A cheap 3-liter MKZ with weak service history is not automatically a bargain. It might just be a warning label with horsepower. The right buyer is someone who likes the idea of a comfortable sleeper and does not care if other people understand it. The wrong buyer is someone who will always be bothered by the Ford connection, because that connection does not disappear, but neither does the value. And after Lincoln's misunderstood sleeper, Cadillac takes the market shift story to its biggest scale with the most ambitious sedan here, and also the one that can punish careless buyers the hardest. The Cadillac CT6 is the most impressive car in this group. It is also the one I would recommend most carefully, because Cadillac was not just trying to build another comfortable sedan. The CT6 was meant to prove something. It was Cadillac saying America could still build a serious flagship sedan with size, presence, technology, strong engines, and real engineering ambition. That is what makes it fascinating. And that is what makes it risky. The CT6 can offer things the other cars here cannot. It feels bigger in mission. It can have advanced suspension technology, available rear steering, magnetic ride control, strong engine options, and Super Cruise on certain versions. A good CT6 can feel like a serious luxury car, not just a discounted alternative. But this is not a cheap Lexus LS. That comparison sounds tempting, but it is too simple. Lexus built its reputation on long-term trust. The CT6 built its appeal on ambition, technology, and presence. Those are very different used car promises. A 3.6-liter CT6 can be the more reasonable way into the car. The 3-liter twin-turbo versions are more exciting, but also more complex. The rare Blackwing cars are a different conversation, entirely special, expensive, and not something to treat like a normal used luxury bargain. With the CT6, inspection is not optional. Electronics, suspension, sensors, cameras, infotainment, drivetrain behavior, luxury features, and trim-specific parts all need to be checked. This is the kind of car where a clean exterior means almost nothing if the systems underneath have been neglected. The right buyer is someone who wants the most ambitious American sedan here and has the budget to maintain complexity. The wrong buyer is someone stretching just to get into a big Cadillac because the price looks low. That is how depreciation traps people. The CT6 closes this story because it proves the market shift was not only about bad cars, American brands could still build serious sedans. Cadillac absolutely did. The problem was that buyers had already moved on. Depreciation made the CT6 interesting. It did not make it simple. So no, these are not secret Lexuses. That would be too easy and honestly not fair to Lexus. Lexus still wins on reputation, resale value, and long-term confidence. For the conservative used luxury buyer, the safer answer is probably still the ES, GS, or LS. But the used market is not only about the safest answer. It is also about understanding why something got cheap. The Continental got rejected as an American flagship after the flagship sedan era had already started fading. The LaCrosse got ignored because calm comfort stopped being exciting. The MKZ got trapped by its Ford connection, even when the right version had real punch. And the CT6 tried to be Cadillac's serious flagship at the exact moment buyers were walking toward SUVs. These cars are not Lexus replacements. They are Lexus-adjacent bargains for the right buyer, with the right inspection, the right expectations, and the discipline to walk away from a bad example. So here is the question. Which one would you actually take the risk on, the Continental, the the LaCrosse, the MKZ, or the CT6?